Hey everyone, and welcome back to Earl Grey. The university year has officially started. My first classes of 2024 happened yesterday, and I'm looking forward to the year ahead. But uni isn't just about classes and coursework. All universities have different clubs and societies where you can meet people and make new friends who have the same interests. So today's guest is a student at the prestigious University of Melbourne. They're studying the Master of Social Work, and they're also very involved in the student life on campus as an all round creative person. In fact, their Instagram bio says, if it's something fun and creative, 9 times out of 10, I'm very much involved in it. So, without further ado, welcome to the show, Marcie Di Bartolomeo.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here and all that jazz. Yeah.
So, Marcy, you're studying the Master of Social Work at the University of Melbourne. Can you tell us, why you chose to do this course and why did you do it at the University of Melbourne?
So I guess all started back when I was first in my first degree, which was pharmacy, which it was like forever ago. And I was like, I know that this degree is in like a industry like healthcare, like which I really want to like be more involved in, help other people, and like that's something that really aligned with me and my values. However, I felt like pharmacy, in terms of like pharmaceuticals in particular, just didn't align as well with what I want to do. So I ended up transferring to the University of Melbourne, like doing a bachelor, well, was initially a Bachelor of Science, but eventually transferred to a Bachelor of Arts for psychology and creative writing. Because I felt like psychology was a closer fit to what I wanted to do as a career, and also creative writing was still a very big passion of mine and was very big passion back then. And I felt like they complemented each other very well. And why University of Melbourne? Well, during my time at my pharmacy course, which was at Monash Parkville, which is right around the corner from the University of Melbourne, I made a lot of good friends at the University of Melbourne through theatre. So theatre was one of the reasons why I was brought over to the University of Melbourne, particularly the comedy theatre group Mud Crabs, which is where I did a lot of my comedy theatre writing and like acting, and it was a big part of my formative experience at the University of Melbourne and in theatre in general. And years later, at the University of Melbourne, I was feeling less and less connected to psychology, particularly because of the focus on stats and data and like research, which I mean, I don't mind researching from time to time. Like it just didn't mesh that well with me. My brain just wasn't really grasping a lot of the stuff that well in the stats department. So I ended up making another switch to social work when that course was offered to me at University of Melbourne. I was like, great, it's a great fit for me. And at university campus, I know pretty well as well. So uh, that's where I am right now. And I thought honestly I would still be pretty burnt out because I only finished my undergrad last year, like in the last year. I'm already feeling pretty excited about the masters and about being back at my being back at uni.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about the clubs and societies that you're involved in at the University of Melbourne?
Oh, absolutely, yes. So first things first, clause Trade Literature and Writing Society.
The Creative Literature and Writing Society.
I co-founded the club way back, like I think 2018, which feels like forever and a half ago. And um, I when I well, why you may ask? Well, when I first transferred over to UML, I saw there was a gap in UML that there was no creative writing club at the university, whether there was one at Monash, and I was like, let's fix that. Let's have a creative writing society. And Clause was born from that side to have that place where people can come together and do some writing with friends, and from there, I became involved in many other societies for like theatre, for instance, like Fake Newspaper and Experimental Theatre Club. I was once its co-artistic director. Directed a show or two under that society, including Therapy in Hell, which was a lovely little show that I might be talking about a little bit more later on. Potentially, we'll see. Um, but I met a lot of people actually in terms of like creative friends and all that through my term as creative arts officer, which was where I really got to know a whole bunch of the societies at my university that were involved in the arts, in writing, in theatre, in painting, visual arts, music, everything and anything. And that was where I also really developed in terms of like my artistic leadership and my craft as both a creative and as a person who like facilitates the creative development of other people. That's where I was basically the artistic director, producer for Tastings, the festival that happened around that time, 2022, all about new works and all that jazz.
It sounds like you're involved with a lot of different things. And I actually want to ask, so the people who like join these societies, it's not just Bachelor of Arts students in this, it's people from all across the university doing all different sorts of courses, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like literally anyone and everyone, no matter course. Like course, for instance, there's people from like science core degrees and like design courses and like BCA and even like students outside university have like become members of course. And that the same goes for most other societies in university. It's really all about your passion and how passion guides your career development and where you go.
Yeah, that sounds like such a cool way to make friends at university. So, guys, stick around if you want to hear more about the clubs and societies at the University of Melbourne.
Earl Grey is produced for radio broadcast on SYN.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Earl Grey. We are joined on the show once again by all round creative Marcie Di Bartolomeo. Welcome back to the show.
Yes, hello. It's good to be back.
So, before the break, we were talking about Marcie's involvement with the student societies at the University of Melbourne. And we want to go just like a little bit deeper into this and talk about something that happens last year and it will be happening again next year, 2025. And this is called Mudfest. So, what is Mudfest?
I'm glad you asked. So Mudfest is basically what Fringes, like a big festival hub where creators come together and develop new works and present their creative like works, or as theater or like stand-up shows, for instance, or like music orchestra performances, whole variety of things. And Mudfest is similar in terms of that structure, but it's focused at the University of Melbourne, and it's pretty much one of the biggest arts festivals in the Southern Hemisphere. At least that's what it's advertised as. And it happens only once every 2 years. Every other year, it tastings premieres, which is like a smaller version that's more focused on new works development, specifically unfinished works. So Mudfest is where I have done a lot of creative development, where I've worked on a lot of different shows, such as Therapy and Health, for instance, and is also where I did a whole bunch of acting last year. And do you want me to tell you a bit more about the shows I acted in last year?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Lovely. So, show I'm going to mention here is Mother's Show by the name of Asexual Tailor Romance. So it's a little coming of age story about someone by the name of Narrator who is basically having kind of like a crisis of identity. They are kind of like trying to find their way, figure out where they are in terms of like their identity and specifically their like sexual and romantic orientation, and try and navigate that in a world that seems very much focused on trying to like basically
So, it's a world where people are pressured to date and be in relationships.
exactly. Yes, that's what I was trying to say, but the words just weren't coming out. So they're pressured to date, they're pressured to like find someone, they're like special someone, that everyone has a special someone, but they don't really relate to that, and they get quite overwhelmed by it, and this kind of expectation, this pressure to date and to have these like romantic and sexual experiences. They don't really want to have any of that. And I played the role of younger narrator, so basically young version of the narrator that's kind of goes through all these memories like all these like dating experiences and all these like these coming of age things that just culminate in young narrator basically dying pretty much towards the end. At least that's what was implied during the show. And so it's kind of like a sad kind of ending, but narrator does eventually find people that are able to resonate with them and their asexual and aromantic identity, and like not pressure them into doing things not comfortable in doing.
Yeah, it's good that you can find like your own support system, and actually just in general that there is such a strong and supportive queer community out there.
Exactly. And that's what the show is really all about. Like it came out of a desire of myself and a whole bunch of asexual and aromantic, like aspect people. So we all wanted to make our own show where everyone working the show is aspect. It showcases like this coming of age journey for an aspect individual. And we initially wanted to make a whole theatre like company for this, but we were like, let's make a show first at Mugfest to get the ball rolling and see how it goes with developing the show. And admittedly, it was a pretty stressful endeavor. Mugfest, one of the things that Mugfest is known for is its very fast-paced timelines and deadlines. We made it in the end, and despite only being off book for about a week or two, we all managed to do like really well, and it was also one of the very first like big like every other acting thing I've done, I think has been mainly for like supporting characters or like tertiary characters, but there was one of the first times where I've like acted like a main like character like role. Was just it definitely was a different experience. It took a lot more out of me than I expected. But it was very worthwhile overall.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to ask, you've done some acting like outside of the University of Melbourne. You were involved with Western Edge last year. Can you tell us about that and what you did with them?
Yes, of course. So Western Edge is a theatre company that's based in the West and gives opportunities and to emerging theatre makers in the West, and it's very accessible, very safe, like supportive environment for making new works. And the work that I was involved in last year with Boss of Bakersfield, an ensemble piece where we each of the different, because Western Edge is also made up of different ensemble groups, so each of the ensemble groups like work on their own little part of the show, and we my ensemble groups at Pillsbury Edge and Laverton Edge, we worked on like two different scripts, and then we combined them together into this like really fantastical, really like quirky and over the top show where basically there is this like fantasy storybook grim kind of like world where Granny Baker, the kind of like one of the most beloved members of this little town called Bakersfield, suddenly dies and he seems to be murdered, and so there's a little funeral held in her honor where everyone is like, wait, I killed Granny Baker, no, I killed her, and I killed her, and it's like all these like different like stories and confessions of who killed like Granny Baker. It's like kind of like this big emerging question. The other part of the show is about this little like Wizard of Oz as kind of like search for this wish from the big boss to which kind of combines together into Granny Baker's like funeral in a very, very big over the top way. It's very a lot of fun. I got to play Mrs. Cunningham, which was kind of like this very old landlord kind of lady who was once friends with Granny Baker, but then kind of fell apart, drifted apart, kind of like stopped being friends, all that. And she had quite a tumultuous relationship with the mayor of the town, Axel Wolf, and she really, really wanted Granny Baker dead. And my headcanon is she was actually the one to indirectly kill him because she was the one that pulled the hit on Granny Baker.
So yeah, it sounds like Granny Baker was involved with everyone in the town. Well, we are going to be a little bit more involved and investigate Marcie's creative journey in the next segment, so make sure you stay tuned.
Earl Grey is produced for radio broadcast on SYN.
Okay, hey, welcome back to Earl Grey. We are joined on the show once again by Marcie Di Bartolomeo.
Hello, once again.
So, throughout the episode, you've been telling us about Therapist in Hell. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that show because I have some exciting developments about both that show and another show I'm working on. So for context, Therapy in Hell was a show I wrote ages ago. For Mudfest 2021. So it's a little very fun, very quirky, like satirical comedy, a little bit of horror show about a therapist who dies, gets sent to hell, and becomes the therapist in hell. Hence the name. They are literally the first therapist in hell. So they start this whole big program. Lucifer is like, I need you to give therapy to these demons and like try and make things basically a little better in hell for everyone. And yeah, it's honestly one of the most fun shows I've ever like written and most fun show that I've like staged. Like it did eventually have to be transition to being online because Mudfest 2021 sadly got entirely converted to being online slash a lot of its events got cancelled, the in-person events, because lockdowns happened again in 2021 around the same time. So that was a very stressful time, but taught me a lot and my team a lot about how to quickly switch over a show from being in person to being on Zoom. And after that, it was supposed to have an in-person season, but due to the lockdowns happening longer than anticipated, it just didn't happen. And one of my goals this year is to finally do an in-person version of that show. Whether that's through one of the new theatre groups that have recently arisen at my uni, like Chipter, for instance, a nice little new theatre group all about staging new works by up-and-coming writers and trying to give them a very supportive environment and all that jazz. And I might also explore Fringe because I've never done a Fringe show before, and I'm really curious about going through that avenue. So that is something that I'm working on at the moment.
Yeah, so going back to like the original Therapy in Hell, I just want to ask, so was this supposed to be like a theater show or was this intended to be more like a short film?
It was intended to be a theater show. Like the very elements that made it up, like it basically need to be a theater show. Like that time I was a lot less experienced in like screenwriting and I felt most confident in staging as a theater show at that point in time. And even now, I feel like just the other campiness of the show kind of lends itself really well to being like a on stage theater show, and also the characters and their interactions with each other and the makeup that goes into that, particularly the demons and the angels too. So it's just a lot of fun stuff that can only be. It could be realized on film, but like I feel like it would be a lot more fun and in a lot of ways a lot more accessible to be done in theater at this stage. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be a really fun show to go and watch. So it's cool that you're working on like getting it on the stage, but this isn't going to be like the same what you're bringing to the table for Therapy in Hell this time around. It's not going to be the same thing. It's going to be different.
Well, yes, for many reasons. Firstly, it's been a very long time since it was first staged, and that was on Zoom. So going from Zoom to in-person staging in theatre, that's going to have a lot of changes from the script to like the production process. I'll most likely have to recruit a whole different team of actors and like production team members. So it'll be very different. In addition, after the original Zoom show, before when we were still trying to make it an in-person staging in 2021, my editor at the time, Charlotte, did a lot more work on the script to the point where she effectively became like a co-writer of sorts because of like the amount of work she was putting into the writing and how like she elevated it to like a level even higher than it was for the Zoom show. So um it will like I would love to try and work for again for the script, but it's been so many years since that original season. So it most likely have like new like writers in the room. I might try and like find like a new editor just to go over the script and like try and like pick it apart and try and make it like try and even like recontextualize a little bit for these times because so much has changed since lockdowns. Because a lot of the lockdowns kind of influenced a lot of the writing for the script in the end. So that's going to result in quite a new spin on things as well. And especially with the work I'm also working on now, which is effectively a spiritual sequel to Therapy and Hell, I might include some little foreshadowing or like some little Easter eggs as well, just for that sequel show as well, which will also be a theatre show and hopefully a musical.
Oh, a musical is going to be really good. Are you going to be teaming up with the songwriter, or are you secretly like adding songwriter to the mix of things that you do?
I have to be realistic. I am in the works right now with the second show, which is right now the working title is Grim Chronicles. It's a like a show about a Grim Reaper who wants to retire and like step away from the world of being a Grim Reaper, which is like a whole bunch of stress and dealing with a whole bunch of souls in the afterlife. So they recruit an apprentice and try and give them the role of Grim Reaper, but that person doesn't really want that role initially, and then they grow more around the idea of wanting to do the role, but they want to change the whole system up to make it more accessible for the Grim Reapers because it's very emotionally exhausting and kind of just very stressful and not really equitable for the Grim Reapers involved in the program. So that's the kind of like the synopsis of sorts of the show. And I've written some songs already, like lyrics from song. So you could add lyricist to my working credits as well. But as terms of songwriter or like composer, I will definitely need a composer for this because like I have only a very rudimentary level of like music theory and like writing music up. So I would definitely need that. And there are still a lot of things I'm not really that equipped to do, particularly with the more technical side of things for production. So definitely need a lot of people for that, and like music, like vocal coaches and all that jazz as well. So yeah.
Yeah, well, it's good that you're trying something new and exciting. And honestly, this sounds like it's going to be a thing to look forward to. So, yeah, when you're further along on the show, hit me up and yeah, I'll get you and your cast on Earl Grey.
That sounds lovely. Yes, I'll be sure to keep that in mind. Probably later on this year, actually, because I plan on pitching this show for this year's tasting. So maybe we'll meet again after that to talk more about that show.
Yeah. And I actually wanted to ask, so you mentioned the idea of taking this to French. So is this like a path that people have taken before with shows from Mudfest or the University of Melbourne heading to French?
Absolutely. Like what I've in my experience, I've seen a lot of Mudfest shows go on to Fringe. A lot of Mudfest shows go on to become shows for theatre groups and at email, and sometimes those shows become part of the Fringe season. So a little bit of both happening there. Both things happening there. So I'd say Fringe is kind of like the next step. It is a little bit of a small cost to get involved in it and then get people together, and it is a lot of planning, a lot of big timelines, bigger than Mudfest. And so there is that consider as well, but it is like something that I really want to aspire towards. It's like it first time I heard about Fringe was like always like almost a decade at this point, and I'm like I I want to get involved with Fringe. I want to be more involved with that, and I heard like that potential therapy and how could be that opportunity to get involved in Fringe and develop this show that has been in my head, has been on Zoom, but now I like I can finally have that chance to be on stage from everyone and just the experience in that way and just flourish.
Well, I'm really excited to hear about what's next for the show and what's next for you.
Earl Grey is produced for Radio Broadcast on SYN.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Earl Grey. It has been a wonderful, jam-packed episode on the show with our very special guest, Marcie Di Bartolomeo.
Hello.
So it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. So if you're listening and you're a University of Melbourne student, how can you find out a little bit more about all of these cool, creative things happening on campus?
Ooh, that's a lovely question right there. So the UMSU website will be your best friend for all the University of Melbourne societies, whether they're like Claws, for instance, or the theatre groups like Mud Crabs, Full of the Word, Chipter, all those groups. They're all on the UMSU website. So that's UMSU. If you type that in and type in website and type in claws or clubs, you'll find a whole bunch of stuff about claws. And if you type in theatre groups, UHT, Unit House Theatre, you'll find out all the Unit House Theatre stuff. If you type in creative arts, you'll find out all the creative arts stuff, which includes tastings and Mudfest. Which reminds me, you'll find a lot more information about my upcoming projects by that method in particular. So,
and I just want to mention that UMSU is like the acronym for the University of Melbourne Student Union. So yeah, if you need any support from them, there's also links on their website for anything that you need, not just societies. But yeah, thank you so much for being on the show.
no worries. Pleasure to be here and to talk about myself and my projects, my groups, my pals everywhere, like Ollie pals. So yeah.
Well, I hope that everyone is having a great start to the university semester, but it is time for us to wrap up the show.